Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Mr. Dev, how did you find that auto sim demonstration? Was it interesting?
सर एक्चुअली ऑटो सिम के बदले मेरे को फेस तो ही मतलब अच्छा लगा,
हाँ,
तो फिर मैं बीच में छोड़ दिया था।
अच्छा. We were discussing work measurement. I am audible, no, Dev?
यस सर।
So we were discussing work measurement, and we saw that there is something called as a basic time, then standard time, and normal time. So how the standard time is defined as, so it is the time allowed for an operator to carry out the specified task under specified conditions and defined level of performance. That is what we saw. So what is important is under existing working condition, the method which has been specified, that is using the specified method and machinery, then by a representative worker and at a standard speed or at a standard pace. So standard time consists of observed time, then you have to give the performance rating, relaxation and other allowances, interference, contingency allowance, then policy allowance, whatever is negotiated between union and management. So what are the different allowances? What happens since the time study is taken for say 4 or 5 jobs, or maybe for a limited time period, maybe for half an hour and 1 hour. That is what is called as a short period of time. We have to consider allowances separately. This time study or the normal time, it doesn't include the delays, that is delays because of waiting for the materials, waiting for the tools, inspection, etc., etc. So that's why this has to be included before you give the target or before you devise incentive schemes. Again, here you have to consider that delays which are within the operator's control cannot be considered, because if operator is able to consider, no allowance is given for such kind of delays. These are the allowances which are common, that is constant allowances for personal needs and basic fatigue, delay allowances, that is the delays which are or which cannot be unavoided, fatigue allowances, then personal allowance and some special allowance. So what does the delay allowance consist of? There are delays because of the material to be received. You are called off for the inspector and he is about to come. You are waiting for the instruction to be given by supervisor or by the manager. You are waiting for your colleagues also, because some tasks cannot be done by one person, so it needs two or three person. So waiting for your co-worker. So this is what is called as the delay allowance. Fatigue allowance, like as I told that whenever the operator resumes duty in the morning, he is fresh and he works efficiently. As the day pass on, he gets tired and that tiredness has to be considered, and that's why in order to maintain the efficiency somewhat same throughout the day, the fatigue allowance is given. So fatigue allowance depends some constant fatigue allowance, that is basic fatigue allowance, and variable fatigue allowance. So variable fatigue allowance, it depends upon the kind of work the person is doing. If it is continuously loading, unloading, that is lifting manually, then that fatigue allowance, variable fatigue allowance has to be more. If somebody is working in hot condition, like say hot rolling, hot forging department, or in heat treatment department, then again there the fatigue allowance has to be more. So it will vary depending upon the condition or depending upon the intensity of the condition, and which is always more than normal. Like somebody is working in say AC office and somebody is working in hot rolling department or hot forging department, obviously the fatigue allowance has to be more for the people's or for the person who is working in hot rolling department or forging department. There are many ergonomical factors which are to be considered while determining the fatigue allowance. Like if the environment is noisy, in the sense like suppose if you are working near press shop, then the people get tired, very fast. Press shop, dhan, 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 throughout the day. So if even if they are provided with the earplugs or ear pads, you cannot totally eliminate the fatigue. Illumination, that is if lighting conditions are not proper, or if there are no adequate fans, pedestal fans or ceiling fans, if it is heaty or if it is very humid, if the task involves exertion on the muscles, like lifting kind of work, then obviously the fatigue allowance has to be more. Then you have personal allowance, which consists of time spent by the worker uh, for his physical needs, personal needs. So periodic breaks are given. So you have fixed time which is not included in the duty, that is lunch time and the tea break time. So that comes to around 45 minutes, that is 30 minutes lunch time, morning tea break and breakfast, that is 10 minutes, and afternoon only tea break, so that is 5 minutes, so 45 minutes. So if it is 8 hours a shift, then it is 8 hours and 45 minutes totally he has to spend. That is, suppose if you punch in at 8 o'clock, then he has to leave after approximately 9 hours or 8 hours and 45 minutes. So other than this 45 minutes, whatever fatigue allowance is there, that is included in that 8 hours. It is not separate like your lunch time and tea break and breakfast time. So fatigue allowance, personal allowance, all these are included in 8 hours shift time. And that's why you cannot exactly get the target as per your cycle time. Like suppose 61 minute is the cycle time and 60 pieces per hour. So you cannot get 480 pieces because you will be giving this kind of allowances, fatigue allowance, personal allowance, etc., etc. So actual time or the operator get will not be 480 minutes. So as I said, personal allowance is for meeting the physical needs, mostly for going to the washroom, refreshment, washing the hands, cleaning the face. So here the people misuse this personal allowance. So you have to take care of that. That is, if somebody is going frequently every half an hour, then you need to check uh, what's the problem. Hmm? If it is really genuine, then you have to resolve it. Hmm? Otherwise, you can issue or you can tell him, see, you cannot directly sack the employee. First, there is a procedure, whether he is from worker category or from staff category, there is a procedure. Like first, you have to give the verbal reminders or verbal warnings once, twice, or maximum 3 times. Still, if he doesn't listen, then you have to give written warnings. And of course, when you are giving written warnings, then you have to, it's a kind of a notice. Then you have to ask for the explanation. Why so? Why so? What is the problem? So that is again 3 warnings. And in the last warnings, you have to strictly say that if it is not improved, and again if you repeat, then you will be sacked or something like that, depending upon the policy. So once he crosses that 3 warnings, then you can issue the notice, and that is also not permanently. You can sack him, depending upon the management. You can sack him for 7 days, or for 15 days, or for a month, and then the person resumes, and again there is no improvement. then you can give him legal notice of retrenchment or whatever it is. So there is a procedure. You just cannot terminate anyone immediately. Here you have special allowances. So special allowances is again consists of policy allowance, small lot allowance, etc. So what is policy allowance? So depending upon companies, some companies they provide a satisfactory level of earnings or a specified level of performance. That is, they see that person should earn, an average earning. Usually, this is for the people who have joined recently because they cannot cope up with the production. Maybe for a month or 2 months till he gets trained. So management sees that uh, he doesn't get less salary. Handicapped people, the workers which are working in the night shift, because the person who is working in night shift is no way that he can perform at the pace of person who is working in the day shift. No way. Even if he has taken rest for the whole day, he cannot perform what a person can work in the day shift. So these are the policy allowances, and these are to be dictated by the management. Then you have small lot allowance. That is, if the batch size is small, uh, or when the actual production period is too short, then there are frequent setups which the worker has to learn, and there will be time spent in the setup. So you need to consider that. Then you have training allowance. Training allowance is like a newly joined person who is on OJT. OJT is nothing but on the job training, maybe for 6 months or so. So till his training is over, he cannot perform. He cannot give 100%. So that's why training allowance is required for a dedicated period, and his work is evaluated oftenly. Rework allowance is sometimes the components are not within the control of the worker. Like all of a sudden, suppose if the hard spot comes, then the tool will break, the size will not come properly. So this is not in the control of operator. So the size is oversized. You get an oversized component, or you get a chatter mark on the component. You get a bad surface finish on the component. So this has to be reworked. So these are unforeseen circumstances. So you need to give some allowance, which is called the rework allowance, for this kind of uncertainties. So these were the different allowances. Now what is work sampling? Just have a look on this. So this is the technique for getting information about utilization of machines or utilization of human beings or resource utilization. And here observations are taken randomly and at large intervals. So more observations are taken, many observations are taken, and it is random and it is taken at frequent intervals. So the ratio of observations of a given activity to the total observations, it will approximate the percentage of time that the process is in the state of activity. So this work sampling is also called as the ratio delay study. And this is done to get the resources utilization. And resources will include your basically two important resources, that is man and machines. Third is material and fourth is your money. But normally the focus is on man and machines. So our target is 100% utilization. So in this we study the delays, why there are delays, and the target or focus is to improve the resource utilization. So it estimates the percentage of a time a worker spends on a different task. It also determines how people allocate their time. Based on this, the industrial engineer can set staffing levels, that is how many people are required, can reassign the duties, can estimate the cost, and will be helpful to determine the delay allowances. So the procedure, work sampling procedure, it includes defining the problem, that is you have to describe the job for which you are doing the time study and you are determining the standard time. Then you have to determine how many observations has to be made, number of observations. Also you have to determine, so this is the actually overview that you do before performing the time study. So how many number of observations to be done, when the observations has to be done, what is the frequency, what is the period, whether the observations is to be done on Monday or on Saturday or on both, because the efficiency will be different on Monday, different on the last day of the week. So this is what is determined in work sampling procedure. Then you have to inform the person for whom the time study is to be done. You have to take him into confidence. Once he has been informed, then you can make the observations at the predetermined times or as per the plan, obtain and record other information, that is operator starting time, then what time he left, the day, how much parts he produced. This is the supplementary information. And then you determine the standard time. So these are the some advantages. It gives an unbiased result since workmen are not under close observation. It can be interrupted at any time without affecting the results. It can be done by anyone with limited training. There is no need to have experts. Then teamwork. So teamwork can be studied by work sampling, which cannot be done by the time study. It is economical, less time consuming than time study, because in work sampling we can study more than one worker at the same time. Whereas in a time study normally only one worker is studied at a time. Then it is not necessary that the while work sampling of say 3 or 4 people working at a workstation is done, it is not necessary that your industrial engineer has to be present. So he can leave and again join. Of course, before finishing the task or before finishing the activity. So generally this is done for the longer activities and which is done by multiple peoples. See, if there are 3 or 4 people working at a particular workstation, like say tire loading, there are 5 people, so their work sampling techniques are used. If it is only one person, that is say on a lathe machine or a milling machine, then time study. This is another technique, that is PMTS, this is predetermined motion time study. Just have a look. So PMTS, which is predetermined motion time study, predetermined, that is you are determining beforehand. Motion means movements or the activities, manual activities or manual movements. So predetermined motion time study, it is a procedure that analyzes any manual activity in terms of basic or fundamental motions required to perform it. Every motion is studied and it is assigned a previously established, that is historical, previously established standard time value. And then the timings for the individual motions are synthesized. Synthesized means clubbed together. And then total time for performing the activity can be obtained. So the main purpose or the main use of PMTS, it lies in the estimation of time, that is you are estimating the time for any task before it is performed. So look at the difference between a time study and the predetermined motion time study. So in PMTS, we are estimating the time before performing the activity, and it is based on previously established standard time value. So it is not a mathematical tool like most. In most the timings are defined for each and every motion, whereas in PMTMs it is based on the previously established standard time value. So that is the difference between your time study, PMTS and most. Time study, actual time is taken and then we give the standard time. In PMTS, before performing the task, we determine the time which is based on the historical data, and in most the timings are already defined for all type of motions. So what are the applications of PMTS? Obviously, job time standards, then you can compare the time for alternative proposed methods. Manpower can be estimated based on the timings. What number of machines will be required, that can be determined. What is the space, that also can be defined or can be calculated or can be worked out before you set up your infrastructure. It is more useful for assembly lines to develop the work layouts. So you can balance the line, you can do the rearrangement properly. Then PMTS can be also compared, with the results that is obtained from actual time study. That is, you have done PMTS and you have got say 1.5 minute, then you do the time study, actual time study, and you have got 1.6 minutes. So you can compare it. Why when I do actual time study, I'm getting 6 seconds more, that is 0.1 minute more. So it can be said that it is accurate method. There is no biasing of the rater. It is effective and economical method for repetitive jobs of short duration. That is, mass production, repetitive work, and of short duration. Short duration means like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, those. Not for the long cycles. There is no interference in the normal work routine and it does not face any resistance from the employees. You are not disturbing them because you are doing everything beforehand. So there is no disturbance to them. All the motions are analyzed. So it can be used or it is used to improve the existing work methods. And therefore it is economical and fast also as compared to your normal time studies. Now, what are the different predetermined motion time studies? One is your MTA, that is method time analysis. Second most popular is MTM, that is method time measurement. Then work factor and basic motion time. These are most common, that is method time analysis and method time measurement. So this is the evolution, that is initially stopwatch study, that is for the time study, then motion study, that is the different motions of the bodies involved in performing the task, then time and motion study, that is here we are noting the time as well as noting the motions also. Then PMTS, that is what we saw now. In PMTS again you have different techniques like MTM, method time measurement, that is basic. Then again advanced, that is MTM2. Then again still advanced, MTM3. And most advanced, that is, or more advanced, that is most Maynard operation sequence technique. There is a like a king of work sampling or work measurement. And Maynard is the name of the person who has investigated and implemented this technique. So it is a predetermined motion time system. Predetermined, that is पहले से ही डिटरमाइन करते हैं, दैट इज वाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज द प्री डिटरमाइंड, मतलब पहले से ही हम लोग कैलकुलेट करते हैं, दैट इज प्री डिटरमाइंड मोशन टाइम सिस्टम, which is used to state the standard time, and it is totally theoretical. Remember, it is totally theoretical, totally mathematical, but here you have to be very experienced, because if any task which is given, you should be able to write down that task in detail, different activities. So you should have a good theoretical as well as good practical knowledge. So in this, a task is broken down into individual motion elements, and each motion element is assigned a numerical time values. That is, lifting a bolt, or turning a nut, or bending through a distance of 1 meter, or walking 10 steps to get a material. So for each and every activity, the timings are defined. Each activity or element is assigned a numerical time value, which is called as the TMU, that is time measurement unit, and 100,000 TMU is equal to 1 hour. So this is a kind of a unit. So it is, the list count is more than a seconds. Like in 1 hour, our list count is 3000. 1 hour is 3600 seconds. So normally we work with 1 second, but here it is 100,000. That is 3000 seconds is equal to 100,000 TMU. So you can calculate, how much will be 1 TMU equal to. So that will be nothing but 3600 divided by 100,000. So almost you will get 0.036, and it is around 36 milliseconds. There is a list count, approximately 36 milliseconds. Then all this mathematical time you have to add, then add the allowance to get the standard time. So it is a work measurement technique that concentrates on the movement of object. It analyzes the work thoroughly, determines the normal time of the line. So here again, you have to break down the operation process into small steps, analyze each and every motion. You have to assign the indices, then sum up the time values to get the normal time by adding the allowances. So you don't have observed time here like what you do in time study. You directly have predetermined time in which you add the allowances, and then of course you have to have negotiations with the union management. So you are on the part of a management, so you have to negotiate with this is what is my calculated time is, okay, and you have to convince the union, convince the worker. Hmm. Most of the time, this most time is a little higher than the actual time. Hmm. So there is no conflict as such. So that was about the work measurement. So that was the end of module 1, and module 2 begins with value analysis. You have value analysis and ergonomics. So this is the syllabus value analysis में. So there is something called as the fast diagram which you use for value analysis, and the full form of fast is function analysis system techniques. So that we'll see. Then certain topics in module 1 like 5S, Kaizen, FMEA, SMED, that also we will see. I have given brief information about that. The important one like 5S, SMED, we will see in details because that is what you are going to you know see in most of the industries. Before, since the syllabus is vast, we will try to you know complete the syllabus, and wherever I find we are okay or pace is okay, I will take this like 5S, Kaizen, SMED, PFD, uh, FMEA, FMEA design, FMEA process, CNPC charts, etc. etc. Some of this has been already covered up in production management, but even though I will touch up, there there are 20-25 techniques which are part of the TQM or which are part of the TPM. So briefly, I have described this value analysis earlier. It is nothing but ratio of the function divided by the cost. So here we are reducing the cost which is in the denominator and we are increasing the function. So cost is divided into cost value, exchange value, use value, estimate value, estim. Like cost value, it is raw material cost, labor cost, tool cost, overheads. Exchange value is like whenever the product is to be replaced by some another product, then we use word exchange value, which everyone knows in the market. We get exchange value for our equipment like say washing machines, micro oven, TVs, etc. Then esteem value, that is performance of the product. Brand, huh? Many people they will go just because of the brand, Godrej bolo, hmm? Philips. So that is esteem value. Then use value is the measure of properties, qualities, and features which make the product uh, accomplish a use, work, or service. So it is the price paid by the buyer or the cost incurred by the manufacturer in order to ensure that product performs its intended function. So if the pen is to be manufactured, he has to see that pen writes, pen writes. There may be other functions like aesthetic look or erasing or music, but the important function is that pen should write. So that is what he'll concentrate. So if it doesn't have any use value, like suppose if the car, it is looking beautiful, etc. Huh? Like if it is not running, then obviously nobody is going to buy, isn't it? So in that case, its use value becomes zero. Esteem value is brand values, hmm, or aesthetic value, which appeals the customers. So it is something beyond the use value. So how do you define value analysis? It is the systematic application of recognized techniques which identify the function of a product or services, establishes a monetary value for the function, and provide the necessary function reliability at the lowest overall cost. Remember, function reliability. Yes, no doubt cost is to be reduced, but that doesn't mean that quality has to be compromised. Okay, so we will continue this and we'll try to complete value analysis as fast as possible using fast diagram. If you have any doubt, please ask. Neeraj is not seen nowadays. He is not well or what? Hello, Aditya.
Sir, we don't know, sir.
Oh, okay.
Sir, is this is that placement का thing?
I see. Which are the but the core companies has come L&T, Godrej.
नहीं सर, अब तक कुछ नहीं आया.
Uh, all are these no basically IT based
IT
no.
company. Yes sir.
Yeah. ठीक है. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much.